Okay, thank you. Good evening. This open meeting of the Nantucket Public School Committee is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Nantucket Public School Committee is convening via conference, by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware the other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along with using the posted agenda unless I, Chair Jen Iller, notes otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, Chair Jen Iller, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide a comment, question, or motion. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and states your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, staff will activate the chat feature on YouTube. Members of the public who have comments or questions can use this feature to communicate with the public body. Instructions are on the town's website. The chair and/or staff will do their best to address questions and comments. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. As a preliminary matter, this is Jen Iller, Chair of the Nantucket Public School Committee. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Tim Lepre, Vice Chair.
Here.
Zona Butler, Secretary.
Here.
Pauline Proch. Pauline Proch.
Here.
Steve Sordovic.
Present.
Thank you. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Michael Kozort, Superintendent.
Present.
Dr. Beth Hallett, Deputy Superintendent.
Present.
Jen Erickson, Director of Technology.
Present.
Logan O'Connor, School Committee Clerk.
Present.
Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Do we have Laura Steele and Suzanne Franzuto, co-chairs for the SNAC? Are they here?
Laura's here, I'm here, but
Hi, Laura.
hi, this is Bri Steele, but yeah, Suzanne said that she was doing another presentation, so I don't think she'll be free until after our time.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, we have Michelle Brady,
Present.
and Michael Horton, Director of Curriculum and Assessment.
Here.
Thank you. The others on the screen, do you guys want to announce yourselves, please? Who else is here? Just so we know who's in the room if there are questions that come up. If I didn't call your name, can you please?
Martin Angelov, Director of Finance.
Thank you.
Diane O'Neill, Director of Facilities and Grounds.
Julie Lamoli, Principal of CPS.
Tracy Roberts, Community School.
Eve Marie McNeil, Principal of NIS.
Kim Kubish, Principal of NES.
John Bucky, Principal of Nantucket High School.
Jane Bailey, CPS AP.
Kelly Cooney, EL Director.
All right, is that everyone? Okay. Well, I'd like to call to order tonight's school committee meeting for Tuesday, April 7th, 2020. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Pauline Proch, so moved.
Second.
Zora Butler, second.
Thank you. Now we're going to turn to comments from the public. So we're going to just be patient and wait a few minutes, see if we have any comments coming through. Okay, I'll wait one more minute. See if anybody wants to comment in case there's a delay. Okay, thank you. There are no comments coming in, so we'll move on to presentations and discussions of interest to the committee. We have our Special Needs Advisory Council. We have Laura Steele here and Michelle Brady-Bobert. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to pass the baton to Laura Steele, who is the co-chair of our Special Activities for the year.
Us and giving us a chance to tell you what's up. I feel like we've had a pretty productive year at SNAC. Last year, we decided that we really needed to sort of deepen the bench of officers. We had kind of 3 people trying to do a lot, and we wanted to make sure that all families felt represented. So with that, we added not only myself and Suzanne Franzuto as co-chairs, but we added people from every school to be liaisons directly with other parents. So, you know, our full bench is Laura Kabadi is our secretary and the liaison for the middle school. Grace Hall is our liaison for the elementary school. Sarah Hollis and Mandy Mason are liaisons for the intermediate school. Jean Witt is our social media officer and liaison for the Lighthouse School. And Kristen DeSalt is the liaison for the new school and our liaison with FOMPS. So, you know, we just wanted to make sure that parents knew that there was somebody kind of in their school that could, you know, help them and answer questions. And I think that that's been helpful for people. We've been able to sort of reach out a little bit. Some of the things that we're most proud of, most recently, we had a great roundtable discussion with summer camps. A lot of people in our community have. Oh, thank you. Like, what's happening? A lot of people in the community have difficulty accessing summer camps and programs like that. So one initiative was to bring different community leaders together to participate. And we had people from, we were thrilled by the enthusiastic response that we got from the community school, Nantucket Star, Strong Wings, the Boys and Girls Club, the Arts Association, Community Sailing, Mariah Mitchell, the Dreamland. We had representatives all come together and have a great meeting to discuss like what works and what doesn't work and in terms of incorporating our kids and making them feel included. So that was really exciting because everybody was very enthusiastic and we all came away really charged up. They came away really charged up and excited to do more. And we've shared information from, I think most of you have been in trainings with Kat from KIT, Kids Included Together. And so some of them came to that training and we're just continuing the dialogue. So that's really exciting. There's other challenges that parents face sometimes are traveling with kids that are unfamiliar with airports. So we had Noah Carberg come from the airport to talk about their FAM program, which is, the familiarization of the airport. And they're able to do drills for kids who can go through kind of on a one-to-one basis, and they will reenact process of going through security, getting on a plane, and they'll even try to find the right size plane. If you're going on a bigger JetBlue plane, they'll try to time it so that they can do it when there's a bigger plane there, which is really great. So we were excited to share that information about that. The other thing that we're excited about, Suzanne and I, what's on your screen is a new welcome letter that we have completed that we would love to have go into every new packet of information for kids that get diagnosed or have an IEP or a 504 plan. We were hoping that every school will include this letter. And that special educators will share information about SNAC and keep spreading the words. Because a lot of times I'm always surprised when people are like, I didn't even know you existed. And, we're on the school website and we have a Facebook presence but the best way to share that we can be a resource for parents is if educators that are talking to the kids can say, hey, did you know that there's this group? That and other parents sharing that. So I think a lot of times because of the whole privacy issue, people feel really alone and they don't know that there are resources out there. So any ways that anybody in the school districts can help spread the word that there's the parent group, that we have our regular meetings, or that we can just be a resource one-to-one. I've definitely taken calls from people one-to-one that are like, oh, I've got a kid in high school and or in whatever grade that how can we work together? And we've helped steer some people in some ways that are positive. So we're really looking for positive, resourceful, problem-solving solutions rather than having it just be, this pile on, negativity. So we're excited that that's continuing in a positive manner. Suzanne Franzuto was in the process of organizing a community event, kind of similar to the one that we did with the school the camps and stuff, but with community businesses. She had the great idea of doing it as a business after hours, where businesses could come and we could network with them to try to figure out ways that they could employ our kids, not just the ones that are in high school, but the ones that are aging out of the school system, and helping them realize that it's not that hard to employ our kids. A lot of times there's a lot of fear of the unknown, and we can help answer some of those questions. We can help them get training. We can, we personally can't get them mentors, but if they do have therapeutic mentors or job coaches, we can help. We'd love to help make those connections so that we know that there's community businesses that would be interested in doing that. So she was in the process of trying to schedule that. Obviously, with COVID-19 happening, that's kind of been put on the back burner. last year we talked quite a bit about Next, the Nantucketers Empowering Exceptional Transitions. And it was a focus goal for us that that work that's happening is now kind of happening behind scenes. So we haven't met it this year, but Suzanne, and I want to sing her praises because she's really been doing a lot of work with this. She's looking at business plans, other community models recently established on the Cape, government funding, all with the goal of presenting a concise, organized package to various stakeholders. So there's a lot of work kind of going behind the scenes, but that is something that we still feel very passionate about, and we'll love everybody's support who's willing to move forward with that. So, and just kind of in closing, I would like to take the opportunity to thank you for allowing us to share this information and all this. This is unprecedented with the school system. I think the school system so far has been working very hard and communicating well and being patient with parents and children as we're going through this. But I hope that you'll really keep in mind how much more exponentially difficult this can be for our families with special needs. The kids are dysregulated. I have parents that get beaten up by their youngsters who just don't, because they're so dysregulated, and normal therapies that they're not able to access, occupational therapy, speech therapy, all those things. I know you guys are doing your best. We are working with the Army that we have, but I hope that you will give extra thought to those families that are struggling even more than your average kids. This is hard enough for parents and average kids, and I'm sure you guys, but the special needs community is got that much more of a burden on them. So, I hope you'll continue to keep that in mind. And thank you. That's kind of what I had to say. Are there any questions that anybody has?
Very much, Laura. Thank you. Tim, any questions, comments?
Well, I think the idea about the airplanes is really innovative. Mm-hmm. And that's some out of the box thinking. I think that we always have to remember that these are all our students, and whatever we can do to make them successful, we should do.
Thank you. Zona?
Thanks so much, Laura, for the update on SNAC. You guys are really working hard, and we appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you. Pauline?
Yes, I would echo what Tim and Zona already said. I loved when I was reading your update to learn about the FAM program. I'd love to see if the boats are doing something similar too, because I know often when our children are traveling, the boats are full and congested and stimulating. So I hope that you're having similar support through Highline and Steamship for that. But I love to see that the airport had come up with that. And I also love the next program in any way that we can support and help, our students as they age out of school and find placement in job placements is obviously ideal, so that they have therapeutic and responsibilities as well, but therapeutic time after their school time ages out. How are families doing? Are you hearing from families during this at-home time period, how they're doing being at home with their students?
I've heard from a few. Anecdotally, I think obviously some are handling it more than others, better than others. I think a lot of our kids are dysregulated and trying to get back into the school routine. I know for my own kids, it's been hard, and they're relatively high functioning. So I think certainly our families are struggling in a lot of different ways. I haven't heard really one-to-one from a lot of people. But we want to make sure that they do know that they can reach out. And I would like to hold our SNAC meeting via Zoom. So I'm hoping that, our meeting last month was canceled. But I'm hoping that our next week's meeting that we can actually do via Zoom meetings. I think it would be great for us to check in with people and make sure that's available.
Absolutely. Well, I know Michelle's coming up next for a report, so perhaps if through the chair I can ask Michelle about the updates of support of our special ed liaisons working with families. So, but thank you, Laura. Thank you for this presentation.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, ditto to all of the above, but special kudos also for your ever increasing efforts to communicate with people, finding as many outlets as you can, encouraging people to contact you. I can remember conversations with you folks about that, and you've definitely followed through. The exclamation point at the end of your opening sentence about how productive you've been should be doubled or tripled. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And again, I just want to make sure you know that we are here to help support in any way we can. So please always feel that you can reach out to the school committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, update on student support services. Our Director of Special Education, Michelle Brady-Bobert.
Hi, thank you for having me. I also want to thank Laura and Suzanne, her co-chair, and all the parents on this group, not just for the presentation, but for all the work that they do every year. And they truly, really do want to make it a better place here for not just their kids, but all of the kids. And so I'm very grateful to that. So you have the PowerPoint. Hopefully it will be shared on the screen. When I first did this, it was supposed to be presented on St. Patrick's Day. So forgive me, there's a little bit of leprechauns on there, a little bit of a St. Patrick's Day theme. But basically, I just wanted to, this part is really about special services. I believe I'm on the schedule for May, which where I'm going to get into more depth about special education. But this presentation is focused on special services, which basically are all the services that are provided by staff who are not general ed teachers. So that includes speech and language therapy. It includes occupational therapy, physical therapy, behavioral consultation. Thank you. Counseling, social work services, social skills groups. And it may also include special education services provided by either special ed teachers or teaching assistants. I don't think I can, okay, thank you. So the role of the director, which is me, basically my primary role is to coordinate and the identification and delivery of services for students with special needs that are identified through either IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or Section 504. I also serve as the out-of-district coordinator for the students that are in residential schools. I am the de facto early childhood coordinator responsible for the early intervention transition piece moving into preschool. As part of this role, we have to write grants, manage grants, collect data for the department on a variety of different issues. I supervise and evaluate several staff, including therapists and social workers. I also supervise tutoring program for students that are not able to attend school and have a physician authorization. I'm the McKinney-Vento homeless liaison, foster home point of contact, civil rights director, and also I try to provide training and facilitate professional development. So it's a lot of hats. Oops. And then the next slide just talks a little bit about the special ed staff, where everybody is. So you can see the number of teachers that we have, assistants, and then we also have all of our related service providers, such as our speech and language pathologists, our speech and language pathologists, assistants, social workers, and we do have a BCBA who works throughout all the schools. I did include just a snapshot of where we're at as of March 1st in terms of number of students with disabilities that are on IEPs. And so I'm not going to read it, but you can see that, we have a fair amount again in preschool and kindergarten. And then we also provide services for students that attend the private schools in Nantucket. So students who attend the Lighthouse School or the new school who are eligible, we provide services for them as well. And then in terms of students on 504 plans, we have about 109 total. I included this here because one of the big things that we try to do is prevention and helping all students, not just students on IEPs. And so this was actually in a special education report, but it's basically trying to use a model of prevention, not waiting for a child to fail and then provide those services, and moving towards early identification and using all the resources in the school to meet the needs of all the children. And so this, you can go to the next slide. This is really talks about multi-tiered system of supports, which you may have heard about. It used to be called response to intervention. And so that's just a model or framework that we are trying to use our resources for these students that are struggling, whether it be behaviors or academics. And so through this model, we are intervening, we're collecting data, we're assessing, and then we're determining either the students are making progress and we're going to keep going, or do the students need to be then referred for special education. So the three-tiered intervention model, tier one, everybody. So 100% of people are supposed to get the core instruction. And then you have approximately 15% or some students for whom they need more than that. So whether it be behavioral interventions or academics. And then tier three would be for a very small percentage of kids that need really intensive services. So that's basically the MTSS model. So our special services personnel, again, I have on one side all students. So almost every student will see the nurse at one point. All students have access to the school counselors, and all students can see the school social workers, not every week, but at least 3 times before we kind of move to a more intensive schedule. Some students, so those could be either students that need tier 3 or students with suspected disabilities. I've listed all the services there that they may be able to access. School counselors. So what I did last year and I did again is I just asked the staff to give me some of their fun facts. So what are some of the things that they have done? And so you can see the school counselors in general, they are doing anything from classroom instruction to student schedules, college and career planning. They're doing a lot of lunch bunches. They're doing some individual counseling. They're doing substance abuse screening. They are also running 504 meetings, writing 504 plans. They're participating in meetings, including the MTSS that I just talked about. They're doing crisis intervention. They're monitoring attendance, and they are making sure that they are reaching out to families and keeping in touch with them. So one of our counselors showed us that, because we have to remember the kids come first. So this is be the K in kind. Thought that was cute. School social workers in general, they're conducting risk assessments, also monitoring attendance, but they take a little bit bigger role in communicating with outside providers, such as all these agencies. They might have to participate in juvenile court proceedings. They might go conduct home visits. And as I said previously, they're also conducting screenings. So then I have some information, really just what is happening in each school specifically. So as of March 1st, there was 132 lunch bunches at NES. They had provided 344 lessons on social emotional learning. They start each social emotional learning lesson with a 3 to 5 minute mindfulness using a program called Mind Yeti. And the social workers conducted those individual sessions, 10 individual and 25 weekly. And then there's just some of the group focuses that she has worked on with their kids. So there's an example of Mind Yeti in grade 1. At Nantucket Intermediate School, some of the groups that they're leading includes a girls' anxiety group, includes a boys' social skills, and an impulsivity group. They're also conducting weekly lunch bunches. They're participating on something that's called the Systemic Student Support Academy, and they are working on developing a universal screener to identify social emotional challenges, because we know that we know those kids that are struggling, dysregulated issues, but we also want to make sure that we are finding those students that might be more internalizing problems. And so we're trying to figure out ways of making sure that we don't leave any child behind with that. The social there, I won't show it tonight, but it's about Coping Cat and Smart Brain. At the middle school, again, there was, for just 2 months alone, CPS started up a student support center, and there were 90 visits during those 2 months. And again, I had listed some of the social workers' responsibilities and different kinds of social skills groups, lunch groups. The counselors do a lot of weekly meetings. They're working with their students on Naviance for college and career readiness for the 8th graders. They help provide support for transition for every 8th grader. And they also do some weekly and group interventions for students that are referred from the student support team, which is again part of that MTSS model that I talked about. They also have lots of different clubs and groups really focusing on kindness, responsibility, respect. And they also have a cool program where they are bringing community members into lunch to sit with students, and they can tell them about their experiences. And then for 8th graders, they're doing a weekly work permit and resume workshop. Well, they were going to do that. I don't know if that's going to take place at this point. Guidance counselors. So as of March 1st, they conducted 860 student check-ins. They conducted 30 to students in all 4 grades. They had helped, as of that date, 820 college applications. And they also did a really cool field trip, as I think you knew, as you know, to visit colleges for sophomores. So they're really starting that college planning process early. School psychologists, so they are really critical to the work of special education. They participate on those MTSS teams that I talked about. They conduct about 70 evaluations a year to determine eligibility for either a special education 504 plan. I've listed some of the evaluations that they use. They're looking at the cognitive ability, the academic achievement. They look at autism, at behavioral and social and emotional. They provide recommendations for students and parents and consult about what we can be doing to help their kids based on the disability. And one of the psychologists also led an ADHD parent support group after school. And she was helping run lunch groups for some of the kids at the intermediate school. And they all are participating in lots of meetings in professional learning communities. So fun fact for nurses, you can see they are very busy too. So they had, as of February 28th, over 3,000 visits each nurse. They also complete vision screenings, and they do a lot of health screenings too. So really, to sort of in my very outdated St. Patrick's Day theme, trying to address all the needs of the whole child and trying to reach every student to help them reach their highest potential. Any questions?
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for your presentation. Tim, any questions or comments?
Well, I like to see our school counselors, particularly at the high school. I mean, they get wrapped up with college and career, but I think the psychosocial is the thing that worries me the most. And they had, what, 860 contacts? And that's, what, 2.5 per student?
But don't forget the social worker is available there, and one of our special ed teachers focuses on the social emotional learning. Nicole, and Andrew Baselli is another special teacher that works with kids that are struggling. So it's more than just the counselor's responsibility.
Okay, but
I hear you.
They have, it blends over between the different groups. And I just hate to see our counselors get so focused on college and career.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's tough. I don't think there's enough hours in the day. I think that they can be very rewarding for this, the psychosocial elements of it, not necessarily where they go to college.
Right, and maybe I just didn't capture it and just focus more on the college, but they participate in the student support team meetings every week, and they reach out to their kids and their parents when they are struggling or there is a concern. So they do more than the college and career.
Now, Michelle, I have a question. The nurses, because the nurses are doing more than passing out Band-Aids. I mean, they're involved. How many of those 3,000 plus visits are medical as opposed to psychosocial? Do you have any idea of that?
I do not, and I would have to ask the nurses to see how much data they're keeping on that. I know one of my own kids was a frequent flyer, more of, probably anxiety and stomach aches and things like that. So they see everything. They're really critical and so helpful because they also see the whole child. But I'd have to give you more information.
Well, I'd just be interested because I've always figured that if you had a school nurse, she could handle anything.
No, and they're wonderful here too, as our counselors, and yes.
Well, thank you.
Jen, are you frozen by chance?
Oh, she is frozen.
I have a question. Can I ask a question about what are you doing for the kids that are home now and for the kids with special needs? I mean, I know I've gotten some emails about setting up things, but can you speak a little bit more to that about these kids that are home now?
Is that okay?
Yes, Michelle, that's fine.
Okay, so everyone is supposed to have, getting a weekly check-in. Social workers are reaching out to their the students that they work with frequently as our teachers. Things are really just starting to happen this week as we're moving to required expectations, and the special ed staff needed to really make sure that the gen ed schedule was fixed so that they could then either support what's going on there or pull out and do additional. But anybody that has a concern or feels like they're not being supported, it would, they can either contact me or they can, I've also sent out like newsletters from Laura Steele, our BCBA, and I know the social workers have sent out newsletters. So we are here to help. So if people do have concerns, whether it be how to set up a behavioral schedule or something like that, I can put people in the right direction. Believe it or not, everybody's really busy. First learning how to do all this remote learning and planning, and now really trying to implement what we can.
Thank you, Michelle. I was having some internet connection issues. Zona, did you have a chance to ask any questions or comments?
I did not. I want to say thank you to Michelle for those were some really deep numbers. The number of nurse visits, has me a little concerned but it also brings about questions, how many of those visits were with the same student, and what percentage of our student body were in those nurse visits per school. And then to piggyback on Tim a little bit, of the 800 plus guidance counselor visits, how many were the same student again? And has everyone, and I do mean every high schooler, received a visit with their guidance counselor? So those are my two questions, not to be answered right now, Michelle.
Okay.
But I'm just curious to know that, are we reaching the whole student body with the guidance counselor? We're not getting caught up in college and college applications. And it's great that 63% have put in applications. All that's well and fine. But our main concern has been for the last, few years is, are the students getting what they need in the way of a visit with their counselor? And we like to see, more than one. Okay. Just
okay. I don't know that information. I don't know if Dr. Bucky would know offhand, or if Ms. Sarah Dallas is on this, but no.
Well, just some information. I'd like to know if all the students have had a chance.
Okay.
Thank you. Pauline?
Yes, thank you. So yes, some impressive numbers in your presentation, Michelle. Two areas that I'm sort of finding myself thinking about right now are our special education students. Laura Steele sort of took the question that I was going to prepare for you, which is, what are we doing for our students and also for parents? Because I would imagine they're going to need a tremendous amount of support, having had their schedule and structure turned upside down. And I'm wondering if there are opportunities and resources that we can bring our students together socially, because that's so much part of their development, is to see their friends. And certainly with the interaction of Zoom, I would hope that we're being creative in having opportunities for students to Zoom and see their peers, at least on the computer. And the other population right now that I am sort of spending time worrying about or thinking about are our high school seniors. This is a very important year for them, and I'm wondering if our counselors are reaching out to them and are able to do any one-on-one counseling with them or group work to sort of work them through. I know that there's a lot of unknowns. We don't have the answers that a lot of the students have questions to, but I think it's important that we don't wait until we've got the answers for them, and that we reach out and to hear their anxieties and concerns, because this is a huge part of their rite of passage. And I know we don't have the answers right now, but I would hope that we're reaching out to at least listen to them and provide support.
I do know that every school has been keeping like a spreadsheet to make sure that every student has been checked on, every week. And I can probably let Dr. Bucky, reassure you as well about the counselor piece. But in terms of the special ed piece, one of the challenges, how do we provide services through remote learning and also through a reduced day? So we really have to prioritize. And so our special ed services are looking a little bit different than they would. And so we're trying to do more parent consult. We are doing those like a couple of weeks ago, they started doing sort of like virtual snack and class meetings. And now we're moving into more scheduled things like that. But we're reaching out to every student to try to make sure that they are seeing their friends, like you said, that they are part of the group. I know that the IDSC classrooms are doing their own classroom activities where they're being led through different things. We're trying to balance giving parents the resources without overwhelming them too. So we're doing whatever we can. It's hard. And I do imagine it's going to be really difficult for families with their kids at home. So we're all trying our best, and I'm very open to ideas. And I've reached out to parents. I haven't had anyone really express a concern. I don't know if everyone is still in shock or so busy that they're just taking care of their kids at home, but I think that we're doing okay. in this difficult circumstances.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to add anything.
Thank you. Steve, I'm going to open it to you for questions or comments.
I do, thanks. I look forward to seeing some of that data that's already been requested. I think that would be very interesting. But I also had a question about the college applications being only 63 some odd % of our presumably seniors. Yep, seniors. Is that a low number, a high number? I guess I've been under the impression, perhaps incorrectly, and Mr. Bucky may be able to help with this, that a lot more than 2/3 of our students went to some sort of further education.
I don't know. That was what they gave me as of February, so it's probably increased a little bit since then. You would think it would be a little higher. I don't know. I think the guidance comes and does a presentation, don't they? Does guidance counselors come and do a presentation?
Yes.
They could probably better answer that than I could right now. Sorry.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Any other questions or comments? All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to our district report card, Director of Curriculum and Assessment, Michael Horton.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Michael Horton, Director of Curriculum and Assessment for STEM. It's my pleasure to present this annual report card. Some quick background. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education releases a stock report every mid-February to late February each year, basically compiling the data from the previous school year. It's a Title I requirement that we then turn around that information and share it with families and community members. If you look on the first page, the forward, past this cover page, you'll see the letter there that covers that information about parents' rights to request information about their school, about their teachers' credentials, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, thank you, Jen, for pulling that up. However, Mr. Kozort, and I cannot take credit for this idea, Mr. Kozort brought the idea to Nantucket Public Schools when he joined us from New Hampshire that we would take the state stock report and add a lot more to that report card. And you'll see some of those components when you scroll through, and I'd like to just point them out here in a minute. The main point is that this document puts a lot of information in one place, which is very convenient. All the data, the charts that you can find in this report can be found through the DSE website. And if you go to the Students and Families tab, and then to the school and district data underneath that, then hover to school and district information, a map comes up of the Cape and Islands. I'm sorry, I wish I was there to show this to you in person, but you drill down to clicking on Nantucket, and then you can actually look at each school, and there's a whole host of top tabs about teachers, about students, about accountability, about assessment. And under each of those tabs are side tabs that have all these reports. And you even can scroll back at least 10 years for as many years that data has been collected in each of those areas. So this conveniently puts a lot of that information all in one document. We'll have it on the district website, a link go out to parents saying this is where you can find it in the district website. It will also be there in Spanish. And then we'll make some hard copies and put them at each building's office, central office, community school. So if parents come in inquiring about it, anyone can distribute a hard copy of the report. What I really want to point out is that the MCAS components of this report is pretty much a summary of what you already saw back in October. What might look different in this report than previous annual report cards is that last year was the first year of MTSS for science. So the science is now being recorded in the same system in grades 5 and 8, at least, as ELA and math has been for the last 3 years. So some of those line graphs that were present in the past have been pulled out because there's only 1 year of data for grade 5 and grade 8 science. However, you'll see charts where there's 3 years of data for grades 3 through 8 for ELA and math. And then secondly, the high school last year was the last year of the legacy science scoring. So their scoring system is totally different. And they're going to be in a transition this year. And obviously the pandemic has put us in another kind of holding pattern to see what the future holds. So this is a little bit tricky in comparing data of MCAS from 1 year to the next. So that will look a little bit different in this report. Beyond all of the enrollment details, and you even can actually probably answer Steve's question by going down towards the end and finding out college acceptances and how many students from Nantucket High School actually go on to college. I think it is probably around 2/3. It's not 87% that we might think, but if Jen scrolls down, you can probably find that data that Steve was asking about. The additional items that we've added to this report. Okay, so look at that. So there you go. Thank you, Jen. So students who graduated last year, 2019, 61% went to a 4-year college, 9% went to a 2-year college. So that number is 70%. So if right now we're trending at 62 have applied, we're probably a little bit behind, but on track to make that 70% number. Other is interesting because these are just the responses for the students. Many students are probably going into work, but they didn't select work. They selected other. Maybe they weren't sure yet. So that is a little bit misleading because many of those others are probably students going straight into careers out of graduating high school. The college acceptances towards the end is a component that we add. Thank you. Perfect. That's not in the state stock report. So this is something that Mr. Kozort has brought to our district to help, really paint a good picture of what Nantucket Public Schools are all about. And then lastly, towards the end are the departmental summaries. You'll be familiar with the annual town meeting where there's an annual report distributed, summarizing the fiscal year up until June 30th of 2019. So in here are the facilities reports, the athletic summary, the tech summary. Those are modeled after the reports that you all receive whenever we do actually have a town meeting. You've all had copies of this. Like I said, it's going to be up on the district website in English and in Spanish. I remember one question a few months ago was, when is this report going to be out? Because it wouldn't be great to have this in time for budget discussions. The state gets this out in February every year. Hopefully, eventually it will be out in December, but that's going to be once we have a couple of years of the data and there's not a lag in attendance and participation and graduation and appeals. I think we're moving that way, but obviously under current circumstances, things get a little delayed. So there might be, again, a little delay for next year's report. And lastly, yes, Zona, pressing the space bar is also a convenient way to turn your microphone on and off.
Sharing is caring.
Jen?
I used the space bar. I used the space bar method. It didn't work for me. Okay, so, Zona, any questions, comments, anybody?
No, thank you, Mike. I always love this report. It gives so much information and it really paints the picture. So thank you for that. I did see that there was somebody that got accepted to Mississippi State University. Am I allowed to get that name?
I don't think that's my question to answer. Maybe off camera? Or is it a relative?
All right. Any other questions or comments for Michael?
No, thanks, Mike. That was a great presentation. Lots of great information.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to update of the remote learning plan. Deputy Superintendent Elizabeth Hallett.
Okay, presentation that I think many have been waiting to hear. So I'm going to share a little bit of about the remote learning plan at Nantucket Public Schools. The remote learning plan is now in place as of yesterday, April 6th. So before I start in on the actual plan, I want to give a little bit of background as to how it came about. When the announcement was made that the schools would be closed from Tuesday, March 17th to Monday, April 6th, we assembled a remote learning task force that was made up of teachers, administrators, district directors, and union representatives to help provide some guidance and help plan professional development for the optional and supplemental learning activities that we were preparing through the closure for our students. The task force began to look at research behind what remote learning was all about and what it was going to be like as an educational model. And based on what we predicted might be a longer closure than April 6th, we began bringing in additional task force members to the work and created some committees. So we had an employee expectations committee, a PD and resources committee, district and school communications committee, and a technology committee. So then on March 25th, Governor Baker announced the extension of the school closures to the beginning of May. And then on March 26th, the Department of Education released a guidance document on remote learning guidelines. And what we realized was that we were really ahead of the game. We had just put into place a professional development slideshow for teachers and for TAs and for ESPs as well. And this really focused on the using virtual learning platforms like Zoom, meeting platforms like Zoom and Google Hangouts to connect and to meet remotely. After everybody had a chance to practice virtual meeting with colleagues, we asked people to start reaching out to students. And this happened in a variety of ways. We saw things such as a virtual snack time at the elementary and intermediate levels. Homeroom and advisory met with middle and high school. So it was a great opportunity to start reaching out, getting those connections going forward so that we knew we had opportunity to connect with students. Behind the scenes, the task force committees were continuing to work on the biggest task, which was to create the district-wide remote learning plan. And this would outline in detail this monumental shift from a traditional education in a brick and mortar school to a remote education model. And this plan has been shared in two different versions. We had one for school staff, and that was released on Friday, April 3rd. And then the other was for parents and families, and that was sent out in English and Spanish on Saturday, April 4th. It's also available on the NPS website, and I'll give directions as to where you can find that towards the end. So now I'd like to share a little bit about the actual plan, some components and the most salient points for both remote learning plans. And again, these points are directly aligned with the guidance that's been provided by the state. So one point we feel is pretty important. We're not expecting to teach content mastery to students, but instead we want to engage students in deeper learning. And in some cases, we do know, particularly at the high school level, we may be able to introduce some new material and new content. Remote learning is self-directed. So this means that students will be given assignments or tasks to complete on their own without a teacher directing the work. We know this is going to be challenging since it will occur in a different setting than what students are used to. We are not expecting parents to take the place of teachers. We know that that parents themselves are juggling their own work from home. They may be taking care of young children. There may be family members they're taking care of. So we cannot expect that they are going to be the teachers and take the place of Nantucket Public Schools teachers. It's important to note that remote learning is not synonymous with online learning. We want to provide a variety of learning opportunities and activities and a menu of options, and some of which is not tied to a computer screen. We really want to limit the screen time of our students. We know that's important for their developing minds. So it is important that our teachers give us, like we said, a menu of options. And some of that is even doing things like go outside, take a walk, take pictures. So we want to make sure that it's not all online tied to a computer screen. Less is more. That's an important piece, meaning that teachers should plan for about half of what we would normally expect students to do if they were in a regular school. There will be assignments and learning tasks that are issued on a weekly basis rather than a daily basis. The expectation is that students complete these tasks and teachers will provide quality feedback on student work. We are working to provide more support and guidance to teachers as we ourselves are learning more about what feedback and determining what quality feedback can look like at each grade level. At the recommendation of the Department of Education, we will not be issuing grades other than a pass-fail for student work going forward. Clearly, there are still report cards that need to be issued, but those will reflect the work that has already been done up to our closure. Students who are English learners or who have special education needs must have required supports and accommodations provided to them. That is a legal requirement. So we are working very closely with our EL and special services directors to make sure that this is being done in all of our schools. And probably most importantly, we want our students to know that we really care for them and we want them to feel cared for and supported. And we want to make sure that the educators are all offering a variety of meaningful learning activities every day for students. A couple of other components that both plans include, there's more specific guidelines around students with disabilities with regard to IEPs and required services. There's more guidance and support with some links for bilingual students and their families, contact information for if they need assistance with translation. Guidance on technology assistance, including virtual learning platforms, which work best, how to ask for assistance for staff and for parents. Also, some guidance and information around student assessment, report cards, standardized tests. We have also included some general expectations for teachers and TAs and other service providers with regard to teaching, planning, providing feedback, and professional development. Additional resources that staff and parents can access and use when they're talking to their children about COVID-19, and also details about how district and school communication will be executed. So in addition to these remote learning plans, schools have also been sharing new remote learning plan schedules with parents and students so that everyone knows where they should be and at what time and what is expected. So to put it in the words of several principals and educators that I heard yesterday, everyone felt like it was the first day of school all over again. So we know that this is an extremely new thing. We are all in this together. We are all learning together. And we are asking everyone, principals, teachers, students, parents, to be patient. There are going to be hiccups. We know it. There are going to be issues with connectivity. Mr. Kozort has been really excellent in outlining challenges and helping us to keep those things in mind as we go forward. That's been really helpful and very important. There are going to be some inequities. We will continue to move forward. We'll stop and reflect. We'll make adjustments and keep going. So I'd like to just close by saying a huge thank you to the 22 remote learning task force members. I'm not going to name them all. You all know who you are. And these educators spent an incredible amount of time over the last 3 weeks, really 14, 15 days, I'd say. Lots of energy to achieve this monumental shift. And I can't thank you enough for your tirelessness and your positive attitude. So thank you very, very much. So I am happy to entertain questions.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I don't have any questions, but I wanted to say, give a shout out to you all. This is not something we could have imagined ourselves being in the middle of in 1,000 years, especially some of us in this lifetime. And I think to have this burden, because it is a bit of a burden, of figuring it all out and how can we best serve the student? How can we best get them what they need? And everybody coming together is just phenomenal. You have your own lives to deal with on top of all of this. It's a lot. It's a lot. And we worry about the students and their stress levels, you know, the parents, the health and well-being of everyone on this island. And it's just a lot to deal with. So thank you for working so tirelessly to do the best that you can to make things happen to each and every one of you. I can imagine you probably don't even sleep at night trying to think about what are we missing? What can we do better? I can only imagine. I want to thank Mike for sharing the videos. You know, a smile in the middle of all of this really goes a long way. So thank you for that. And again, I mean, thank you all. I don't know what else to say except thank you. And I'm so glad I'm not you. I don't know how I could handle this, but I support you 100%.
Thank you, Zona. Any other questions, comments for Beth?
Yeah, I have a question for Beth. Where do you think we're going to be in September? Where are we going to be in a year from September? Are we going to be talking about getting rid of bricks and mortar schools? This certainly is a challenge, and you guys have risen to it, but this seems to me to be a sea change in education. I know at the hospital, all of a sudden telemedicine, even on an island, you know, where distances are pretty small, is coming into vogue. And I wonder what you see in the future for this. Because certainly this, while you got slapped with a very cold fish when the governor did this to you, and you've risen to this, but this has got to lead to some fundamental changes in how we view education. And I wonder what you think about this, Beth.
That's a really loaded question. So first of all, where do I think we are we will be in September? I think we will be reassessing where we are, in the sense that we will need to look carefully at what learning has occurred during this period, what learning has not occurred, and what we need to catch up with. And we may be finding ourselves, I'd say, as a nation or as a world, playing catch up. And thinking carefully about where we need to start in order to move children forward in their education. I will be honest. I don't know where people would like to head with this, but from my own personal feeling, there is nothing that substitutes the relationships and the connections that children make with each other and with their teachers. There is no question that the collaboration that happens in a regular school, the personal connections are absolutely necessary and essential for children to move forward. We are creatures of society. We are social beings, and I can't imagine that this would be an entire takeover of with remote learning as the core to our educational model going forward. It is a convenient model when there are issues such as this, when there are ways that we might need to share or help students who cannot be in school for one reason or another. And this is a nice opportunity and a good tool, but I do not feel that it takes the place of the daily interactions and the learning that occurs every day in the classroom with students and their teachers. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, the thing is, you see today these large college courses that involve, thousands of students. And I just wonder, this got forced on us, but I think there are probably some advantages to some of this as we move forward. I think, as I said about the hospital, there have been some changes all of a sudden with this telemedicine, and I'd just be curious to see. I'll be curious to see where we are next September and the September after that.
So one piece I think to consider too is the age of our students. Children who are pre-K to 12th grade are still developing, their minds are still developing, and the way we learn is very social and very interactive. I think at the college level or graduate level, there's a lot more opportunity and a lot more ability for independent, self-directed learning. And it can be very, very convenient in a lot of ways. You say those college courses are large and have great opportunities for people not to have to leave their home and go to a class. But still, I think that there is something to be said for the interaction that you're able to have with people. And I think that our pre-K to 12 students just cannot have that same opportunity in total and full remote learning. I just think that's very difficult. So I'm hoping that across the country, across the world, we will be seeing brick and mortar school systems beginning back up again when we are ready and able. And maybe there's an integration. Maybe we see a little bit more remote learning in certain opportunities, but I would hope that it doesn't entirely substitute what we can do and what we should be doing in a regular school setting.
Thanks, Beth. I'm going to turn to Mr. Kozort for a moment to see if he has anything to say about this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that Beth has appropriately answered that. I would like to speak to add a little bit to that and also respond to Zona and say thank you. People have likened this situation to building a plane while you're flying it. And I think that is very true. We have been forced to re-examine how we reach children academically, but I think that the value of the social and emotional learning that we do in schools is equal to that of the academic and intellectual. And I don't think that virtual schools will ever replace brick and mortar. I think that they will supplement it. I will say that this has forced us to be better at finding ways to reach our children. And I'd like our community to know that ramping this up is complicated. If you were on the listserv of superintendents across the Commonwealth, as I am, you would hear a very broad spectrum of what schools are doing. There are schools that have no technology to give out. There are schools that have technology to give out devices, but there is not connectivity in homes. We are sort of a blend of that in our school district. We do have the advantage, but I really have to give a lot of credit to building administrators and to Jen Erickson and her staff in distributing this technology with very little warning. And it's really pretty remarkable. Technology, though, in and of itself, is not the solution. It is just part of the solution. And there are a lot of things being juggled with information coming at the administrative team from the federal government, from the state government, from local government, And it is really daunting, and I would echo Beth's appreciation of the task force, and certainly I would give a lot of credit to Beth for facilitating that. I know that you're going to be talking about evaluation of me in a minute, but I will hope to make some comments about Beth within that.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any other questions for Beth? Steve?
Not a question, but a comment. Awesomely complete and detailed. I was bowled over when I first saw it. I've been through it a couple of times. Obviously, I've spoken with colleagues, former colleagues, and they're all on board. So keep it up. I know there'll be twists and turns, but I have all the confidence in the world that you folks can handle that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the update. Okay, moving on to the report on the superintendent evaluation. So I'm going to jump through this and report on Mr. Kozort's summative evaluation. But before we get going on this, I just want to make mention, because I think it's really important for everyone out there to know that he's the only, or the superintendent's the only public figure that has to be evaluated in public. So moving forward, this is our collective evaluation from the school committee for our superintendent, Mr. Kozort. I'm going to go through the standards quickly. Standard 1 is instructional leadership. The education leader promotes the learning and growth of all students and the success of all staff by cultivating a shared vision that makes powerful teaching and learning the central focus of schooling. The overall rating is proficient, and our comments are, moving forward, it is most beneficial to our district to structure the central office to include 2 curriculum directors. There is still work to be done concerning curriculum and instruction. With 2 curriculum directors, we hope that our attention can once again be focused on various methods of assessment and ways we measured learning and growth for all students. So standard 2 is management and operations. The education leader promotes the learning and growth of all students and the success of all staff by ensuring a safe, efficient, and effective learning environment, using resources to implement appropriate curriculum, staffing, and scheduling. Overall rating, proficient, exemplary. Mike has done considerable work to ensure safe and secure environments at our school. As a district, we need to consistently review and evaluate our practices to continue to maintain a safe and secure environment with well-trained and equipped staff. Mike has been working tirelessly to help with the behavioral issues we are facing. We genuinely appreciate Mike's hands-on approach during these challenging times. Looking ahead, we need to ensure we have sufficient supports in place for any SEL and behavioral needs that present. Mike is extremely knowledgeable and organized with our district's policies. Mike has been a continuously strong leader in this area. The budget remains clear and transparent process that is inclusive to all stakeholders. Moving on to standard 3, family and community engagement. The education leader promotes the learning and growth of all students and the success of all staff through effective partnerships with families, community organizations, and other stakeholders that support the mission of the districts and the schools. Overall rating was proficient and exemplary. Mike is a strong and effective communicator. He is visible and accessible always. This has been an area of strength for Mike and one we consider extremely important. Mike goes above and beyond to make connections with stakeholders, and he offers various ways for folks to reach out to him. And then we have our standard 4, professional culture. The education leader promotes the learning and growth of all students and the success of all staff by nurturing and sustaining a district-wide culture of reflective practice, high expectations, and continuous learning for staff. Overall rating, proficient. Mike is committed to setting the bar high. He has led and encouraged his administrative team to set high standards, and not only for themselves, but also for their staff. We continue to develop ways to build relationships and connections with our EL families. At Mike's direction, Dr. Hallett has taken on the leadership to develop our district plan, which addresses accurate needs of the district. And now I will read the summative evaluation. The overall rating was proficient. We remain appreciative and grateful that Mike continues to be a dedicated and visible superintendent. Mike attends all school functions, which is noted not only by school committee, but by families, students, faculty, and our community members. Some good progress was made in nearly every category, despite unusually difficult circumstances. These include the lockdown, scheduled delay at CPS, rebuilding the relationships between the leadership team, losing our only curriculum director to the middle school, and finally handling the challenges that the coronavirus provided, which included setting up remote learning and adapting a new way of instruction. Mike has done an outstanding job at bringing the Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Beth Hallett, up to speed, preparing and supporting her for next year. Mike directed Beth to lead the district plan that will continue to be a priority for us in the future. We need to do whatever it takes for us to get to the root of the problems in math, to make sure that the changes Mike implemented are making us stay on the right path to see the improvement we need. We do recognize we are beginning to see areas of improvement in early grades. Overall, Mike is a strong professional leader, and he has worked tirelessly to set up our district for continued progress and future success. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, thank you, Jen, and thank you, school committee. If I could just make a brief comment. I think coming into this year, this was a year that I hadn't anticipated. I don't think any superintendent in the United States anticipated a year like this. But I saw from the very beginning that my biggest goal was to help our deputy superintendent, Beth Hallett, be prepared to take over at the end of this year. And I thought that that would mean helping her get to know the staff, the town officials, how Nantucket works, give her some experience in collective bargaining and the budget process. And we've done those things. What I didn't anticipate was sort of a baptism by fire with some of the things that have gone on this year. And I think it's pretty clear that she will now be ready for anything if you can handle this situation, which she has. I'd like to just share a comment that her former superintendent in Quincy said in a private conversation that I had with him before we hired Beth. And he said, Mike, she will take your lead in July, and by January, she will be an equal partner, and by next June, she will be ready to take over. And she has beaten that timeline. She has shown me that she is ready to be the next superintendent of the Nantucket Public Schools. And I feel that you are in good hands as we move forward. And I think that that's a segue, Jen, for you.
To make Mike, first and foremost, we can't thank you enough for staying on this extra year. And on that note, I would like to formally announce that Dr. Beth Hallett has signed the contract to begin as our next superintendent for the Nantucket Public Schools starting July 1st. So thank you and welcome again.
If I may?
Sure.
I just want to say that it has been an honor to work with Mr. Kozort this year. He has been a fantastic mentor, and I am so thrilled to be coming in as the next superintendent of schools next year. So thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to committee discussions and votes to be taken. May I have a motion to participate in the selection of school choice participation academic year 2021? Policy JFBB.
Pauline Proch, so moved.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, this is roll call vote. Mike?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I may, just to give a little history to the viewing audience and to the school committee, we have a policy, JFBB, that says the Nantucket Public Schools do not choose to participate in school choice. Being an island school, it is not a practical option for us, and I just wanted to remind the members of the school committee that as you vote, you are actually voting to not participate in school choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kozort. So can we do a roll call vote to agree to not participate in the school choice participation for the academic year of 2021? Tim?
I got confused when you said that. The original motion is different than what you just said.
I would vote to turn down the opportunity to participate in school choice.
Zona?
Do we need a so moved at this point?
It's a roll call vote.
Yes. Not to participate.
Pauline?
Pauline Proch, aye.
Steve?
I believe the motion was to participate, so I vote no.
Jen, aye. Sorry for the confusion.
So what was the vote? Total?
The vote is to not participate.
Okay.
Moving on to the next vote to take. May I have a vote to approve the donation for Adopt a Lunch Tray program from Douglas Nigel Revocable Trust in the amount of $500. Jason Olbray and Nicole Marks in the amount of $100. Joseph and Marcia Aguar in the amount of $100.
Pauline Proch, so moved.
Second. Second.
Tim?
I vote for it. I do accept it.
Zona?
Aye.
Jen, aye. May I have a vote to approve March 24th meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Pauline?
Pauline Proch, aye.
Jen Iller, aye. May I have a vote to approve March 10th meeting workshop meeting minutes?
Sortovic, so moved.
Zona Butler, second.
Tim?
Second.
Pauline?
Aye.
And may I have a motion to approve transfers and invoices?
Sortovic, so moved.
Zona Butler, second.
Tim?
Yes, in favor.
Pauline?
Aye.
Jen, aye. Okay. Also, I would like to make sure we acknowledge all of the donations that we've received for the lunch tray program. It's pretty significant. Our community continues to give to such a great program, and we are extremely appreciative of the generosity. Thank you very, very much to our community members who want to help support our students and the Lunch a Tray program. Thank you. Our superintendent's report? Oh, sure, Pauline.
Just while you were on the lunch program, could we maybe get some information more on Linda Peterson and her staff, because I believe they are providing the lunches, or I'm actually asking if they are. And I know that Island Kitchen is providing their van and services outside the school. So at some point it would be great to get a report on how that's going. And obviously the appropriate thanks to all of the staff who are helping to provide lunch for our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
I did not do so on behalf of all of us as a group, but I stopped by there. I couldn't resist, and pulled into the school parking lot and thanked the people of Island Kitchen. And I do hope, as Pauline said, that we somehow get them something in writing, maybe a gift, but definitely something in writing for the efforts that they're making. I know they expressed their appreciation for the thanks I gave them and the fact that I stopped by, and it felt good.
Well, and I thank you, Steve. And I also have to echo that we all thought in the beginning, you know, we were thinking 2 weeks, and this is definitely carrying on to be, you know, much longer span of time. And so it is incredible, the kindness, the generosity that continues to help support our students. And I know Island Kitchen has been a very large donor, and we very much appreciate that support. It's unbelievable. Thank you. We'll move on to superintendent report, please.
I will make this is Michael Cosworth, superintendent. I will send out some numbers to the school committee of how many lunches we've been serving over the past few weeks, so that you have that. I can tell you that Linda Peterson is the staff member who continues to work on that. We don't have other food service staff working. It is Linda with Island Kitchen at this point. And then for the rest of my report, I'd like to turn it over to Beth to make an announcement that should be coming out in Thursday's paper. So with your permission, Chair.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So I have some great news to share. I'm delighted to let you know that Mrs. Mandy Vassell has been chosen as the next Nantucket High School principal, and she'll be starting on July 1st, 2020. I'll give you a little bit of background on Mrs. Vassell. She has served in several different capacities as a principal, an assistant principal, a dean of students, and a teacher of business and marketing. She is currently the high school principal at Narragansett Regional High School in Baldwinville, Massachusetts. She has held other school leadership positions, principalships and assistant principalships in Millbury Public Schools in Massachusetts and Spencer East Brookfield Regional Schools as well. As a Massachusetts educator for the past 2 decades, Mandy is very knowledgeable in the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks, MCAS, NEASC, educator evaluation. She's been in the trenches. She earned her bachelor's degree in business and theater arts and her master's of science in vocational education, and then she went to receive a second master's in educational leadership. She has coached several sports over the years, including softball and boys lacrosse. Through both the search committee and those who met her recently in a second round of Zoom interviews, including high school department heads and student council members, everyone could see that Mandy is extremely dedicated to the students and staff that she works with. She builds strong relationships and partnerships wherever she goes, and she's looking to do that next year. She's thrilled to come to Nantucket. She and her husband spent part of their honeymoon here, and they immediately fell in love with the island, and she's very excited to make Nantucket her home and begin next summer. Although she has very large shoes to fill from Dr. Bucky, I am confident that Mandy will rise to the challenge and she'll add to the continued success of the high school. So I welcome Mandy as part of the team.
Thank you very much. All right, is there any subcommittee or group work that anyone wants to report on? All right. If there are no other questions, comments, or reports, then may I have a motion to adjourn?
Sordovik, so moved.
Bolingbroke, second.
Sonabella, aye.
Lepre, aye.
Jen Iller, aye.
Bolingbroke, aye.
Aye again.